Hi, I'm Jeb, and welcome to Our Abundant Future. Fundamentally, our modern society is built on and held together by a number of key economic sectors. How exactly these sectors are divided up and defined can vary between sources, but commonly you will hear about large, easily identifiable sectors like energy, transportation, and food/agriculture. Many of these sectors are in for major disruptions in the coming decades, and arguably the sector that will be among the first to be disrupted is the road-based transportation sector. This video will focus on the impending complete restructuring of the road vehicle network and the role of the car as we know it. I will also lay out some of the most likely implications for the future. Right now, we are currently experiencing an inflection point in several key technologies at once, and the imminent result will be the most significant disruption since the invention of the automobile. The two technologies I'd like to focus on today are battery electric vehicles and self-driving software, both of which will quickly grow to be market-defining assets in the years to come. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start with electric vehicles. And no, I don't count the absolute jokes that are hybrids and hydrogen vehicles. I'm referring to actual, fully battery electric vehicles. I'd first like to address the elephant in the room: climate impact. While battery production does still produce some inevitable emissions, said emissions are far less over the lifetime of the vehicle than that of an internal combustion engine vehicle, also known as an ICE vehicle. This is especially true when considering the emissions caused by sourcing, refining, and transporting the fuel prior to it being burned in the ICE car. Additionally, considering that electricity today is still generated in large part by fossil fuel plants, I believe that EVs are only one side of a coin, the other side being renewable energy sources. EVs using electricity generated largely by renewable energy sources is as good of a solution to automotive emissions as we can hope for in the near future. And thankfully, it will not require any sacrifices in quality of life for most, if not all, citizens. In fact, EVs have immediate benefits over ICE vehicles that benefit owners directly. EVs are cheaper to maintain and fuel. Cost of ownership and headache of ownership are both significantly lower, and the gap is widening fast. If built correctly, they are safer than any ICE car could ever hope to be, both in crash rating and in risk of fire. Designing for additional cabin space or storage space is possible, and significantly more electric utility than an alternator could ever provide is readily available. EVs are on a steep declining cost curve, mostly driven by the cost of batteries, while ICE vehicles are simply not. We are damn near price to value parity between EVs and ICE cars today, and the EV advantage will only continue to increase from here. This is the essence of the EV revolution that we are watching unfold today. This would be a game changer in and of itself, and it is, but that's not all I want to share with you today. This EV revolution also happens to be a perfect match for the next topic I'd like to discuss: the imminent advent of safe and reliable self-driving software. At a glance, there are a few contenders in this space, the most well-known being Waymo, Cruise, and Tesla. However, upon further inspection, there's only one player on the entire planet with a winning strategy. Let me explain. Cruise and Waymo, as well as many other competitors, are approaching the problem of self-driving from a traditional sensing and pathing standpoint. Their cars are following a known route in a pre-mapped and pre-approved area while trying really hard not to run into anything. Put these vehicles in an area they aren't specifically programmed to drive in, or put them in a situation that requires any type of complex decision making, and they will either simply stop in their tracks, give up and turn around, or act in an otherwise dangerous or dysfunctional manner. Cruise was in the news recently for causing a gridlock when 3 of their cars gave up and stopped in the middle of the road. If you want this kind of behavior to improve, a team of engineers must make deliberate software changes. Additionally, if anything about the map's road network changes, such as construction of new lanes, new intersections, new traffic flow, or even certain types of temporary construction zones, the affected area will have to be completely remapped if the vehicles are to navigate it properly. Don't get me wrong, this approach can work with sufficient tweaking, and it is a reasonable approach if your goal is to navigate only a few well-mapped city centers here and there. However, it is completely unscalable past a certain point, as you have to actively maintain the maps of your operational areas, and software improvement is driven entirely by human effort. Besides, the car is still essentially using training wheels and is merely trying its best to stay on the rails without killing anyone. If you want a reliable solution that is safer yet at least as capable and versatile as a human driver, the only way to get there is by creating what is essentially an artificial intelligence that can perceive, contextually understand, and navigate its immediate surroundings completely regardless of where in the world it's operating. Crucially, it needs to be able to do all of this without the need for an external source of affirmation or baseline truth, like an HD map. Such an AI is necessary for a truly scalable autonomous vehicle solution, and the only company in the world that is working on such an AI is Tesla, with their full self-driving or FSD beta program. As a bonus, Tesla's approach is also quite minimalist, requiring only a few moderately capable cameras surrounding the vehicle in order to function. No expensive or unsightly hardware for LiDAR, radar, or sonar required. This means that a Tesla autonomous vehicle can be made for cheap and at scale much easier than competitors. In fact, Tesla engineers found early on that trying to incorporate multiple types of sensors and sensor data into their neural network training flow was actually detrimental to the software's performance and safety, as it can introduce a significant amount of noise and sensor disagreement. Any advantage that these additional sensors may provide must be considered secondary to the core functionality of Tesla's FSD beta. In other words, these sensors do theoretically have their uses, but FSD beta must be able to function properly without them. This so-called vision-only approach has yet proven quite difficult to perfect. The program has seen its fair share of delays and setbacks, but the Tesla AI team has proven extremely agile. They have found several developmental traps and local maximas over the years. Each time, they have quickly changed their approach accordingly and continued to make good progress. Tesla's FSD beta program started with a select handful of trusted test drivers. This has been slowly released to more and more participants over the last couple years. Very recently, a huge milestone was reached. FSD Beta version 10 was released to all customers who bought the feature. Hundreds of thousands, or perhaps over 1 million drivers across the US, are now part of the testing fleet, regardless of their driving habits. FSD Beta is trained mostly on real-world data gathered from their existing fleet of Tesla vehicles. Some of the most valuable types of data is that which shows when and how FSD Beta does something wrong. In principle, the more vehicles there are on the roads using FSD Beta, the more common the mistakes made by the software will be, and thus, the faster the software will improve. This data flywheel is crucial for training a safe and reliable self-driving AI. It requires a massive fleet of vehicles with cameras or sensors driving around gathering training data. Nobody on the planet has a fleet of such vehicles anywhere near as large as Tesla's, and therefore nobody has access to the quality and quantity of training data that Tesla does. This means that not only is Tesla the only company with a winning strategy, but no one else is in a position to leapfrog them anytime soon. Building up a comparable fleet would take years, if not decades. It's too late. The race isn't even technically over, and Tesla has already wiped the floor. Now, all that's left is for Tesla to finish the mission. With this recent wide release of FSD Beta, Tesla is one step closer to releasing self-driving software that is as capable yet safer than a human driver. It might take another year or two, but I firmly believe it's only a matter of time before every Tesla on the road suddenly gains the ability to become a fully capable autonomous electric vehicle with an over-the-air software update. On top of this, I should also note that Tesla's team understands the immense importance of their project, and they have stated in the past that they will be looking to license their FSD software to other companies in the near future. Once Tesla cracks this case, most other EV manufacturers will suddenly have the option to sell autonomous vehicles without having to develop the software themselves. Tesla's FSD solution will spread like wildfire. So then, what does this all mean? What exactly will autonomous electric vehicles, or AEVs, unlock for humanity? And why am I ranting and raving about them? Well, as mentioned before, EVs can be safer than ICE cars, and autonomous vehicles have the potential to be many times safer than the average human driver. So, first and foremost, the proliferation of these two technologies will mean vastly safer roads. Make no mistake, the most important aspect of this technological leap is that it will save countless lives. If you take away only one thing from this video, let it be that. I'd also like to take this opportunity to call out those like Dan O'Dowd, who would lie, cheat, and cast stones in an attempt to prevent this technology from obtaining regulatory approval. Every additional day that he and people like him frivolously delay progress is more blood on their hands. There is lots of valid criticism to be had, and if you have some, your goal should be to present it in a constructive manner in hopes of accelerating the correction of flaws and making the system safer sooner. Aside from safety, there are many more positive implications of AEVs, the next most important being that they will lower the cost per mile of personal transport substantially. To paint the picture, let's imagine a future where every vehicle on the road is an AEV. Instead of your personal vehicle being parked and vacant when you aren't driving it, you will be able to send it off to be an Uber driver of sorts, giving other people rides for a fee that's paid in part to you. In fact, you don't even need to own a vehicle of your own to begin with, since you could just call on any number of nearby vacant vehicles to come pick you up like an Uber driver. The difference is, since you aren't paying a driver for their share of the fee, the cost to you can be lower. Since the owner of the vehicle can pay less per mile for maintenance and charging than with an ICE car, the fee you pay can be lowered even further. Since the vehicle can drive 24/7 aside from charging, its utilization, the percentage of time it spends being useful, will be much higher than a manually operated vehicle, on par with or even greater than today's commercial trucks. Instead of just carrying you to work and back every day, an AEV could provide a dozen or two rides per day between charging cycles, collecting fees as it goes. This makes the real value of an AEV substantially greater than the average car today, yet the cost to manufacture the vehicle could actually be lower. The vehicle will easily pay for itself over time, and any excess operational margins can convert to lower ride fees. I do expect that AEVs will be a bit cheaper to manufacture, even if battery costs don't continue to drop, which they will. Manual control of the vehicle will not be necessary except in rare circumstances. A traditional pedal, steering wheel, and dashboard control suite will be complete overkill. Removing these parts from the vehicle or replacing them with a more rudimentary control interface will reduce manufacturing costs. Next, consider that the investment required to maintain a fleet of AEVs is much lower than that of manually driven taxis. There will be fleet operators that maintain hundreds or thousands of AEVs with a minimal employee count. These operators will have the opportunity to optimize their system and take advantage of their large scale to even further reduce costs by another peg or two. Vehicle-related insurance would also be significantly cheaper, since the rate of road accidents would be a fraction of what they are today. All of these cost savings and added value can make it down to the paying passenger, given enough healthy competition amongst individual vehicle owners and fleet operators. Cost savings is not the only type of savings AEVs can offer. Undoubtedly, the most valuable commodity to anyone in the world is time. Let's say that you're paid $20 an hour to do your job. You have essentially priced your time at $20 an hour. Now let's say that you spend $40 on fuel, maintenance, and insurance to drive an hour-long, two-way commute to work and back in your manually driven ICE car, during which you can hardly do anything else. You must pay attention to the road. The best you can hope for is listening to music, podcasts, or audiobooks while you drive. You will spend an hour of your time, worth $20, doing almost nothing but driving. Add the $40 of fuel, maintenance, and insurance, and you're looking at a $60 expenditure. Now imagine paying $10 or even less for the same commute, during which you can really do anything you could from your couch. You could work remotely or build a side hustle from your laptop. You could play video games, you could watch a movie, or you could read a book. Essentially, you are left with an extra hour of quality free time, plus an additional $30 of nominal savings every single workday. Plus, you will never have to waste another mind-numbing minute staring at brake lights and traffic if you don't want to. There will be a noticeable increase in productivity across the board in every area this tech is deployed in. The value proposition here is absolutely enormous. I mentioned before that EVs must be coupled with the renewable energy revolution in order to better mitigate the climate impact of the transportation sector. However, even without such a revolution, we can spot some clear environmental benefits of a widespread adoption of AEVs. For one, eliminating tailpipe emissions and exhaust noise would drastically improve air quality and noise pollution in major cities. There would be a reduced deposition of toxic fluids onto roads and surrounding areas, simply because EVs don't leak such fluids like ICE cars regularly do. Environmental impacts stemming from gas stations, like fuel spills and vapor emission, would cease entirely. Not to mention that charging stations don't require massive tanks of fuel to be stored nearby, nor do they have to be restocked by huge, cumbersome trucks on a regular basis. A system with only AEVs would fundamentally be cleaner, simpler, and more efficient than our current system. This is true even if the energy grid is not 100% renewable, which it absolutely will be in the future, but that's a topic for another video. I should note that I have focused all of my points thus far on personal transport and light-duty cargo, basically anything you could do with an SUV or a minivan. However, this disruption affects the freight industry as well. Today, semi-trucks account for around 60% of domestic goods shipments in the United States. This includes nearly everything you buy as a consumer. Food, clothing, beverages, building materials, they're all shipped by semi-trucks. Shipping these things costs time and money, ultimately contributing to a higher shelf price of the goods that you buy on a regular basis. Very recently, Tesla has announced the first deliveries of their electric semi-truck, and it has all of the advantages of EVs that I covered over its diesel-powered rivals. It's safer, it's more efficient, and it's cleaner. But importantly, it's also faster. Have you ever been stuck behind a slow semi-truck on an uphill section of highway? Well, the Tesla Semi can tackle much steeper inclines without slowing down. It's also faster to get going from a stop, meaning it will spend less time accelerating after stopping at intersections. Any other electric semi worth its salt will have similar performance advantages over diesel trucks. Faster trucks mean shorter, cheaper trips. Add this to the cost savings associated with EVs that I discussed earlier, and you're looking at game-changing cost savings for the semi-truck fleet operators, which ultimately means lower prices on consumer goods. If we take things one step further and make these newfangled electric semis self-driving, you've got even more cost savings. These new technologies, as fantastical as they sound, are right around the corner. They pose an imminent and existential threat to the incumbent system of manually driven, dinosaur juice-powered fiery death machines on wheels. A transition to autonomous electric vehicles is inevitable, primarily for economic reasons, but it also has vastly positive implications that stretch far across our modern daily lives. I will put a link in the description to a recorded seminar hosted by Tony Seba, who describes this disruption, among others, in a much more professional manner than I ever could. If you're interested, I also recommend going and watching a few of the many videos posted on YouTube showing off the current capabilities of Tesla's FSD beta software. It is not quite perfect yet, but some of its capabilities are already absolutely mind-bending. Anyway, that's all I have for now. I'm Jeb, this is Our Abundant Future, and thanks for watching.